G'day folks, MBS here. Today I'm going to be doing a clutch slave cylinder replacement, mainly because it's leaking, yeah? How did we find this? It wasn't too hard. Well, the owner didn't find it, I actually found it. He was losing clutch fluid, or brake fluid, out of his clutch master cylinder, and he couldn't find a leak anywhere, so he topped it up and the clutch came good. So he didn't worry about it too much. Then it went on him again and he checked the reservoir, it was empty. Then he told me about it and I went looking. I found it pretty much straight away. We just peeled the bellows back on the slave cylinder. This is the new one. You peel the rubber back just like you do in a brake wheel cylinder. When you're checking that they're leaking, just take the rubber off and brake fluid comes out. You've got a leaking slave. Alright. The master cylinder can do that too, so you should be checking for any brake fluid going down your firewall down there on your pedal side. Make sure there's none leaking there. You could be leaking out of the pipe, so check all your pipe fittings as well. But this is the usual place, the slave cylinder. So let's go ahead, let's replace this and then we'll bleed it and the job's done. Okay, the slave on a Toyota Hi-Lux is right in on the left-hand side here. You can actually see the cylinder right here above the torsion arm. So it's a simple matter of 12mm spanner. It's only held in by 2 bolts. And then we've got to undo the flare. So undo the flare first, the flare fitting. And you'll need one of these if you have it. It's a special flare spanner that wraps around the fitting, and you won't round the corners off the fitting when you undo it. If you haven't got one of those, then obviously just use an open ender and hope the hell that you don't round the corners off if it's not too tight. But yeah, it's always better to use the flare tool if you can. Alright, so no problems, we'll just remove it. How does it look on this? It sits like that in there, so easy to get to the two 10mm bolts, 12mm bolts, and undo that pipe. And then we just take the rod out of the other one and fit it into this one, and fit it back up, connect everything back up, and should be good. Now I'm going to depressurize that one because it's full of brake fluid. Last time I did it, when I found the leak, when I peeled this back, it came splurting out all over me and got over my glasses. So it was under a little bit of pressure in there because it's been leaking obviously for quite a while. So yeah, we will relieve that pressure first and then we'll take it off. If you have a pinch-off tool, just basically a tool for pinching on the brake lines to seal them off, it'll be great to have one here because when you undo your line going into the clutch slave, it's going to leak the rest of the brake fluid out of your clutch master. So we pinch the rubber line that goes into the slave, and then we can undo the fitting, and we'll only lose a little bit. Yeah, these screws are quite tight. Okay, that is off. Take the rod out and it is off. Okay, once you've got the cylinder off, just pull the bellows off and get rid of any excess brake fluid that's come out. Remove the bellows, you'll be left with the rod. Now you've got to get this rod into the new cylinder. Now you'll notice there's an indentation in this rod. That goes outwards so that it catches on the end of the rubber bellows. Okay, so you just push that all the way in, And don't worry if the rubber bellows doesn't meet it, it will when you get it in there. When we push this rod all the way in to get the clutch in, there, oh there you go, I did it there on the right here and now. Just push the rod in and it slipped through the bellows and has gone into the lug of that rod. Now we're ready to fit it. Now a trick to putting these back in is not to get this bolted up and in place and then try and put your line on. You got to put your line on first, otherwise you see this pipe is pretty rigid, and if it doesn't line up perfectly you'll never get the thread started. So I always like to put the cylinder up against it first, and then it's much easier to get the angle of the dangle right to get that thread started. Once that's in, then we just push the wheel cylinder, the slave cylinder rod in, and that's in. All we've got to do now is just bend it until we can get these two bolts in and tighten it up. Okay, with everything connected, I'm just going to open up that bleed line, and all that's happening here right now is gravity is pushing the fluid down through the slave and obviously out through the bleed nipple. I don't think we're going to get a good clutch out of this. Generally you require two people to bleed the clutch, or you can do it yourself with a one-man bleeding kit. But I'll show you from down here exactly what we're going to do. When I get the second person, I'm going to shut this valve off, bleeder. He's going to put his foot on the clutch. When he does that, I'm going to open that and fluid should come squirting out, actually under pressure. We'll close it again, he'll let the clutch up, and then he'll push the clutch back down, and then I'll open it again. And you'll probably hear a spit, it's spitting, which means that that's air. So that's not good. We keep bleeding it until the air is all gone. And once you get a flow of nice fresh brake fluid coming out of there with no splattering, tighten it up and you will have done the bleeding job. Okay, so we'll just tighten this up. I'll go up and see if I've got a clutch, but I doubt it. Generally this doesn't work that great, but we shall see. Actually, I might just leave the camera on while I'm pushing the clutch in. We'll see if it's actually working. Oh, good stuff. We've actually got a clutch. Okay, I tell the fibby that one actually worked for us just by letting it gravity feed through. But when the young fella gets up, I will bleed it anyway with him as a two-person bleed, just to make sure. Okay. Well, there you go. It wasn't too hard, was it? Just remember to top up your clutch master with some brake fluid, and if you're lucky to get away without having a two-person bleed operation happening, then great. This has worked for me as well, but like I said, I will get a two-person bleed just to ensure there's no air in that clutch line. Okay, look, you may not have the flaring tool like I've got, and you may not have the pinch tool for pinching off the hose, but that's okay, it doesn't matter. You just let all the brake fluid run out of the master. Big deal. Brake fluid, what's it worth? Not much per bottle. So just let it all pour out into a container and throw it away. Properly, dispose of it properly, of course. And yeah, get yourself a bottle of brake fluid, brand new stuff. Don't use old brake fluid. It's hygroscopic and it absorbs a lot of water and it becomes ineffective, especially on a brake system. Alright, so easy peasy, that wasn't too hard at all. Probably about a 15-minute job at most. Now, just because I'm doing this on a Toyota Hi-Lux, you can transfer this knowledge over to virtually any clutch job, as long as the slave cylinder isn't internal inside the bell housing. all the slave cylinders are much the muchness. They're all bolted to the outside by 1 or 2 bolts, or sometimes 3. Virtually exactly the same, guys. So just because you don't own a Hi-Lux doesn't mean you can't do a clutch slave, just like I've done in this car. You just transfer this knowledge over to a different model vehicle, that's all. So yeah, what I've shown you here pertains to almost any car. Okay, so catch ya, see you in another video.